are now tuned in to the Storm Tracker podcast.
Welcome back, family, to the Storm Tracker podcast. Tracking the storm that is the Miami Hurricanes. I'm Marcus Benjamin, representing for CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Make sure you subscribe to the website, CanesCounty.com, for free. Use the promo code Miami30, and also Canes County. The spring game in the books, spring practice all in the books, and now we get to talk about the roster and, what additions Miami should make through the transfer portal, which is now reopened this week. And also just kind of talk about the current players on the roster and just what we saw from the spring game as far as takeaways and what to look forward to with the Miami Hurricanes for the 2025 season. And to talk about it all with me, I've got Larry Blustein, who reports for Prep Red Zone Florida, the longtime South Florida legendary reporter, to talk about it all with me. Thanks for joining me today, Blue.
Not a problem, Marcus. Obviously fresh off the spring game, a lot of people, couldn't wait to see what Miami's going to be like, and they left still wondering why. There was a lot of kids that didn't play that will be on. Will be in that lineup on August 31st against Notre Dame, and it was just another type of practice type of thing, and a lot of players were held out. But it was, it was good for the booster people. It was good for the season ticket holders to at least, have an opportunity to see some new faces that they hadn't seen before, even though, like we said, they kept it pretty much plain. They didn't really do anything unusual, but they got a chance to see the defensive schemes from a new defensive coordinator with some new position coaches at linebacker and in the secondary. So, it's at least you get something out of a game like that.
Yeah, I think we definitely got something. We didn't get a lot, but we got something out of this spring game. Spring games are kind of hard to judge anyway, as far as like how good the team will be, because if they're good in one area, they're probably bad in another. So a lot of interesting things kind of happened, though, during the game. But you talked about the absences. The one big absent player from the spring game was obviously Carson Beck, the Georgia transfer quarterback. Of course, did not play in this game, still recovering from his arm injury, but he likely will be throwing this week, but did not throw in the spring game. So we got to see the three backup quarterbacks, Emory Williams, Judd Anderson, and Luke Nickel, the freshman from Georgia as well. So let's just start there with the quarterbacks. From what you've seen from all those three guys, what stood out to you, and what can...
Well, first of all, when you take a look at the purpose of that event was to seek a number two quarterback, because we all know, as you mentioned, that Carson Beck should be quarterback one, which I've stated and I've said, kind of bothers me, when you have, somebody new coming into the program. Sure, he's got credentials, but his credentials weren't here. And you got to also remember that he's coming into a situation where the offensive line may be comparable to where he left, but certainly the playmakers are different. And especially with Miami losing all that production. And, there's 18 ways to look at everything, and I obviously know, we've seen him, play. We saw him with Georgia. We saw him with Mandarin when they beat Columbus in the high school state championship.
Yeah.
But let's understand too that when you have kids like Rosemay and Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, All three of them are in the NFL right now. It's easy to kind of look at a quarterback and see, hey, he makes plays, but at the same time, he's coming into a situation now, and that's why I've been vocal. And there's nothing you could do about it because he was hurt, but. When his first significant snap's going to be on August 31st against the defending national runner-up in Notre Dame, that kind of, sends a little concern. I don't care what he does, in his workouts and over the next 3-4 months, he didn't have an opportunity to do it against competition. At least, and I'm not saying tackle him and harass, but at least let him throw into, live coverages and things like that, which is going to be, it's going to take some time. And those 2-3 weeks where, because he's not, even though he's going to be working, like you said, throwing and, just doing things with the receivers, it's not going to assimilate what he's going to see during this, the season. Now, spring football would have been more of an indicator. But that being said, to answer your question, I thought that, we're not going to fool ourselves. Emory Williams is not going to be here. He's just not. It's they've already made it kind of clear in the media. They've made it clear, in talks with people that Luke Nickel is going to be, along with the kid Coleman, who's going to be an incoming 26 kid, are going to be the future of the program. So with that being said, they gave Emory Williams an opportunity the other day to kind of showcase what he could do against some live defensive backs who were, an upgrade, way upgraded from what they had last year. Certainly. And, giving him an opportunity to get some good film and for some of these people in the portal, to see what he brings to the table. And we know he's got arm strength and, he's done whatever he could, he may not be as talented as everybody else, but he certainly never stopped working. And, and you got to give him that even through the injury when he was thrust into the starting lineup as a freshman in Tallahassee, which is never going to be easy. I don't care how deficient Tallahassee was or FSU was. But that being said, you got a chance to see him throw. You got a chance to see the future in Luke Nickel. Who obviously, is one of those guys that's going to come in and hit the ground running. He's had 2 great years at the high school level, championship type of years. And then Judd Anderson is another guy who obviously is battling for some playing time. And it's, if you don't get it in this window, it's going to be awfully tough with all the talent that they got coming in over the next couple of years. So from the quarterback spot, I think we saw, an opportunity to see what some of the backups could do, but we saw it all spring. But the jury's going to still be out on your starting quarterback. So if, God forbid, he re-injures himself, is Luke Nickel ready? Is Judd Anderson ready? Because I know they could say, and obviously the conversation with your quarterback who has had the most experience is going to, hey, listen, you never know. You're one hit away from, getting in there. But but if you don't, and especially with the challenging schedule Miami has, does he see the field much? And that's one thing he's going to have to weigh. Same thing that A.J. Allen had to weigh. We all know A.J. Allen's a top flight back. Let's not hide it, but he wasn't getting the carries. So he sure could have stayed and been another piece, in the arsenal. But, like Emory Williams, he probably, he wants to maximize what he has while he has it. Yeah. And I think from that standpoint, to answer your question on the quarterback situation, you're going to go into the season with Carson Beck and Judd Anderson, who's had a year, smart guy, good size, throws the ball nice. And then Luke Nickel, who's a phenom. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's not been done before where you insert a freshman, but you could bet that even though that Carson Beck will be the quarterback, that whoever's second up is going to have to be ready, and there's not going to, because you've had an opportunity, over the last month to kind of solidify that number 2 position, and did you really do it? That's what I'm saying. If Emory Williams is your guy and he probably thinks he has a better future to move on, then you really didn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. You didn't really get a number 2, because I think Emory really emerged because of his experience, because of his ability to throw the ball, and his understanding of the offense. He is the number 2 quarterback, which is nice for him, people to say to him, but in the end, is it going to be enough for him to just say, "Yo, you're right, I'll just stay around and be just a perennial backup," when I could go to anywhere. I'm just throwing out Ball State type of places, or places like that, where he could go and get his, he can get some reps, and maybe even first team reps, and then if he improves to that next level, then with this portal situation where it's, you could do things on the fly. You could go one place next year and then another place the year after, and another, there's players in the college right now that I look that are going on their 4th school. So this whole structure is really, it's a good opportunity for the players, but for teams, it kind of sucks, because you never could solidify what your backup situation is. But to answer your question, I don't think they really emerged with what they set out to do. I don't think, especially if Emory Williams ends up, going into the portal and leaving, then you really kind of failed in your attempt to get that number 2 quarterback. Because if there's questions about Judd Anderson and Luke Nickel and saying, I don't know if they're ready, then you didn't then you didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah. First off, I do want to say shout out to Emory Williams and just, what he's done for the program. I mean, he is a quarterback that will play on the college football level somewhere, if it's not here. I do think he is a solid quarterback. I think he's maybe a sliver over like a game manager type of quarterback. I think he makes great throws. I think he makes great decisions. I think those are great traits for a college football quarterback that can be successful. I mean, he was successful here in a few games that he started. So definitely like the future of Emory Williams, even if it's not here in the orange and green for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Judd Anderson, I'm not so sold about him at all as far as being a starter. Definitely not on the Power 4 level. Right. Maybe he could be a D1 quarterback for a school that, somewhere. But I'm not sure, if he's quite ready to be a college football quarterback based on what we've seen. Now, Luke Nickel, he's a great talent from what I've seen in high school at Georgia or in the state of Georgia, and also from what we've seen here in spring practice. You see it, you see what Shannon Dawson sees in him. He's got a really good presence for the pocket, and he can chuck it deep. He can laser it across the middle as well. He has good footwork for being a freshman, so I think the sky's the limit for Luke Nickel. But you don't want to kind of throw him into the wolves just in case Carson Beck goes down with another injury to this level of college football. So with all that being said, it seems like if Emory Williams does indeed go into the transfer portal and, Judd Anderson, let's say he does as well, then you probably need another quarterback. So to your point, Larry, it's like, you didn't really kind of do the position justice, because you're still probably going to need a transfer quarterback just in case Carson Beck goes down, because you don't want to put Luke Nickel in there as a freshman. That's not exactly what you want to do. But if they don't get a transfer quarterback, that may be something that they have to do just in case Beck does go down with an injury. A player that did shine, though, during the spring game was obviously Malachi Tony. On Saturday, and this freshman receiver class really seems like it's going to be impactful, and could be impactful in this year one 2025 season. Malachi Tony, what more can you say about the kid? He's explosive. He catches the ball well, runs great routes, can get you those yards after the catch. He's pretty much everything that you kind of want in a receiver, but he's just not super tall. I think that's the only, if you want to knock him at all, why would you? But I guess that if you want to be super critical, that would be the only thing. But besides that, he's everything that you want in a receiver. But I do want to ask, Blue, like, the fact that, freshmen, because we're probably going to see a few freshmen play a lot of snaps this season. Hayden Lowe is probably going to be one of them, along with, Tony. Maybe Gerard Pringle plays some snaps as well, because he looked really explosive as well with the ball in his hands. What are your feelings on just kind of playing freshmen, and what does that say about the program that you probably have to play your freshmen in their first season?
Well, basically what it says is you don't have those playmakers, especially at the receiver position. And look at how many receptions they lost, just in the last year. I mean, there were so many with Young and Restrepo, obviously, being a bulk of that, as your tight end who's going to be in the NFL. So to me, what it says is you're going to rely on players. And I've always been an advocate. If you're wearing that uniform, you should be able to suit up. I thought that they didn't play Elijah Lofton last year enough, and that's got to be remedied. If that guy doesn't touch the ball at least 10, 12 times a game, you're doing your offense a disservice. He's the best and the most dynamic player you have on your offense right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So with Malachi Tony, and I hear you about his size, but you know what? You don't need to be 6'4" to be standing in the end zone. I mean, this is a guy who's elusive. He runs tremendous patterns. He's quick. His confidence levels, you remember, as a ninth grader, first play out of the gate as a ninth grader, he caught 10 balls for 190 yards against one of the best teams from California on national TV. Yeah. So the stage is his. Obviously, I mean, you've got some really, really good talent, on that, as far as the receiver position. We talk about Josiah Trader being one of them. Nye Carr, who caught a ball the other day and looked pretty good. I think that somewhere down the line, you're going to have to look at a kid like C.J. Daniels, a guy with some experience. I mean, this is a guy that obviously needs to use what he has and why they got him. And to me, the big guy, and I think this is his year. If he doesn't have this year, he'll be gone, as Ray Joseph. We waited for him. He's 3 years on to the team. He's having an opportunity to learn every facet of the, being a slot receiver. But if he doesn't come through this year and he doesn't do what he's capable of doing, I mean, it's just, I think he moves on, or, it's going to be one of those things, because there's way, way too much talent waiting. Like I said, if you remember back when J.J. Smith from Ohio State was the number one receiver in the state, who was number two? Josiah Trader. So obviously, this kid is a big-time kid who has an opportunity to step in and make those plays. You look at him and Nye Carr. Both of them came in into college as highly regarded players. We haven't really seen much of Chance Robinson from St. Thomas Aquinas, what he's capable of doing. But from the offensive side of the ball, especially at receiver, I think it's pressing. I think you're going to see more of Joshua Moore because he's a wide body guy. He's a receiver and a tight end frame. So we'll see a lot more of him. I just think from with Ray though, as we're watching him now, I mean, he's elusive. He knows the playbook extremely well, the offense, but now he's got to produce. I mean, there's no hiding the fact that he's got to produce from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, because the receiver position is going to be vital because you know what you got at running back. You know, you have a Jordan Lyle who's a big-time kid, who's a major guy. You also have Mark Fletcher who's shown that he could be a big-time back. He's also got to stay healthy. You mentioned Gerard Pringle, which is great. But the one thing that Gerard Pringle and Jordan Lyle have to do, especially in this offense, is learn how to block. If they don't learn how to block, Marcus, they're not going to be in the situation because if you look, Miami's offense is predicated, especially their running backs. I think a guy who could emerge by them because his willingness to give up his body is Wheatley Humphrey. He's gained some weight, bigger guy now. And I think he'll bypass everybody only because of the fact that, he can run, but he's not afraid to block. And I know in this scheme, blocking from a running back standpoint is essential. You have to chip somebody. You can't, especially with a quarterback that, and I'm not going to say fragile, but a quarterback who's coming off injury, like a Carson Beck, you don't want people to have a straight shot at him. He's got to get, the defensive, even on blitzes, you got to chip somebody along the way. Pringle is a dynamic back, but the one thing he didn't have to do at Armwood was block. So now he's going to have to that's one of the facets that I'm sure he's got to work on it as well. Offensive line wise, I'll be honest, I've been studying over the last 4 or 5 weeks of all the teams, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Miami's top 4 or 5. They are. It's just no getting around it. All the players on those lines are so skilled. And you look at somebody who has probably come 100% full circle is Markel Bell. I mean, here's a guy who was just a big, goofy guy 2 years ago. And now he's agile. He's technically sound. And him and Matthew McCoy, obviously, you kind of want to stop the 1 year plug-in at center because you want to have somebody. But, Brockemeyer is going to be really good. To me, that position should have been Ryan Rodriguez's. But I think Ryan will kind of, battle with McCoy for the guard spot. You have Inez Cooper had a great year. And then we know about Francis Mawanoa. And also, I think Samson Okunlola comes through this year and starts doing what he could do, because then that's going to set the table for your young kids, the young kids from this class, and Alafatoli and Jaden Wilkerson and Campbell and Tommy Kinsler from last year. Then I just think that the future as far as offensive line is in great hands because of the fact that they've not only built frontline guys, because let's face it, Mawanoa is going to go at the end of this year. Bell will be gone at the end of this year. Inez Cooper will be gone at the end of this year. Brockemeyer will be gone at the end of this year. So it's up to, usually a panic, but I think the guys that they have that are running second team and even some of the extras are top notch. And that's how they recruited. And that's why they've got a shot for the young man from Missouri. And because of the fact that look at they could preach and what they've done to these guys in developing them. So, and we know that somebody like Elijah Lofton is a cheat code. because you could put him at running back. He'll carry the ball for over 100 yards. You could get him into the slot as a H-back slot, and he'll murder any linebacker. And then you get him into the tight end position where he's going to get a safety covering him. He'll blow right by the safety. And so he's a guy, and I'll say it over and over again. He's the most valuable offensive player they got. Not even close.
Yeah.
Because but they've got to, it's sort of like I remember this movie that I once saw, and this guy was driving a BMW, and he's going real slow, and a guy passes off to the side, and he goes, "You're driving a damn BMW, act like it." And you see, that's what you have. That's what you have in Elijah Lofton. You have a Ferrari. And a guy that could explode this offense and open up things for the Rays and for some of the other players, because sooner or later you're not going to be able to single cover that guy. You're going to have to have a safety up high. You're going to have a linebacker over the middle just in case. And then when he's in a short yardage situation, you can line his ass up at a wildcat, and he's not going to hurt you because he can throw the ball. So, offensively they've got potential, and it's all there. It's just that. Thank goodness they have the line that they have, because that can afford some of the other guys who are, not marginal talent, but marginal experience guys to kind of feel their way in a little bit easier. I'm a little bit concerned with the kicking game, but we've been spoiled. I mean, we saw the field goal attempts. They were, they were long enough, but that's what I'm saying. We got spoiled over the last 5-6 years with the Borregales brothers. Arguably, Andy Borregales was arguably the best kicker in the history of the program. I mean, as far as percentage wise, and he only missed one extra point, in 2 years. So, it's offensively, we know what's on board. It's just that they have to, talent's there. I just think that the one thing, to be honest with you, that helps, when you have the Jordan Lyles that could bust a play, showed it last year. He could do it. He's that type of back. He's got great vision. He's got good speed. He just, and he just got to stay healthy. That's just the thing with the running backs. But that's why you have Pringle. That's why you've added some firepower, and you may bring somebody else in. You never know. But that's on offense. I'll let you say what some words of what I just said.
Yeah, I think. Well, I just kind of want to get into the two deep roster, but I do think Miami has enough depth in most positions. Even with the running back position, when you saw the 4 running backs that you saw, if those guys can stay healthy, then you're pretty good. Yeah, I think you're pretty solid at running back with Jordan Lyle, Mark Fletcher, Gerard Pringle, and Chris Wheatley-Humphrey. Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, I've been hearing great things about as he can be that third down back to really kind of catch the ball out of the backfield. You mentioned blocking being a key part of it, and that is something that I think could be a concern for some of those younger backs. But Lyle and Fletcher were always your best blocking backs from last season. So I'm not too worried about the running back room, although I do think that they could add one more running back to that room just in case, because it's running back, right? It's the position that probably you could say gets injured the most, and you want to be prepared for a situation to plug in a guy that has some experience. But let's go to the defensive side and just kind of talk about the two deep on that side of the football. Let's start at safety. I mean, when you look at these safeties, I thought the safeties played really well, by the way, in the spring game.
Markeith Williams played well.
Yeah, I thought Markeith Williams played well. I thought Amari Wallace looked pretty good. I thought Zachariah Poyser looked good as well at safety. Dylan Day had some flashes as well, and Zaquan Patterson. We finally got to see him out there. So this safety position seems deep, but when you look at safety, and let's talk about cornerback as well, because you got some great players there now, certainly upgraded from last year. You have, of course, Xavier Lucas, the transfer from Wisconsin, originally from down here, of course. You've got OJ Frederic coming off an outstanding freshman season. You got Damari Brown coming off an injury from last season, who's looking to prove himself. And then you've got Chuck Brantley, who's been, you know, making a lot of noise,
Yeah.
literally and like physically, in spring practice. So you've got those guys really kind of battling for the cornerback and nickel positions. Who do you think
Right.
starts from that group?
Well, I said that you're probably your secondary would be Frederic and Xavier Lucas at the corners. I think that Patterson will eventually get in there at that strong safety, and I think Poyser gets in there in the free safety position,
Okay.
and then the nickel will probably be Brantley.
Yeah.
But that being said, at least at the corner position, Frederic could be backed up by Ethan O'Connor, who I think has got some experience. You know, he's a younger kid, but he's, I believe, a redshirt sophomore. You got Bryce Fitzgerald, who's coming in from Columbus. And there's a guy that you got to keep an eye on. He's fast, he's athletic. But at the safety position, Markeith Williams, who I mentioned, you talked about Dylan Day. So right there, you got three pretty good guys with Poyser, Markeith Williams, and also Dylan Day. Then at the corner position, you have Manuel Carnley, who's got some experience, and you know he could definitely be right there with Xavier Lucas. And then, as you mentioned, Damari Brown and Charles Brantley. So, I mean, from an athletic standpoint, from a technical standpoint, and from an X's and O's football standpoint, light years better than last year.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So let's move on quickly to the linebackers. I mean, the linebackers not as deep this season as years in the past, and clearly you've got number one and number two guys. It seems with Wesley Toussaint and Popo Aguirre.
Yeah,
Those two guys seem like they are really kind of commanding that room, and they are stepping up as the leaders. Of course, Wesley, is the veteran of that group.
right.
So,
He
you
gained
assume,
25 pounds, which he got bigger.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, and I agree. Raul Aguirre was a guy that I love, stays healthy. He's a beast, but don't sleep on Cam Pruitt. He's a playmaker. He's a tough kid. Is not afraid to stick his head in there. I think you also have, somebody like a Chase Smith who really hasn't had the opportunity to step in there. He needs to get his butt in gear. I think
mhm,
Kellen Wiley is a future stud.
me too.
Uh, he and Darius Hayes are two young kids, freshman, sophomore, out of the last two classes that are going to push, along with Jalen Alderman. I think he pushes as well.
Yeah,
So I 100% agree with you from a talent and experience standpoint. No, they're not a really deep group, and I think that's where they're going to add in the portal over the next month. I think
yeah,
they're going to add a linebacker or somebody of quality, to bring in there, maybe even two, just to add that experience up front. Because as you mentioned, Popo Aguirre will be right there with Wesley, but Cam Pruitt's breathing right down, their neck, and I really do think somebody like Kellen Wiley, even though he's a freshman, I mean, he had an awesome spring. The times that I had an opportunity to watch him, Marcus, he was solid. But I 100% agree with you. Not the deepest part of the defense.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I like Bobby Pruitt as well. I feel
Yeah.
like he needs to gain maybe a little bit more weight, kind of fill his body out, but very instinctive, very good hands too for a
Yeah, yeah,
linebacker.
yeah.
So I really
Great
like
ball
what
skills.
yeah, I really like what I see from Bobby Pruitt. We'll see if some of those rest of those linebackers stay because of hearing things that some of those linebackers could be going into the portal as well. So
Oh
they
well.
it would behoove it would behoove Miami to try to get at least at least one linebacker from the portal, but maybe two could be the magic number. Let's go to the D line, man. The D line has been
Who's who of future NFL players? I can tell
yeah,
you that.
definitely. I mean, I think you can already kind of pencil in Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain as the starters as far as your defensive ends are
Yeah,
concerned. Both of those guys could also play inside as well. Very versatile pieces. Very limited in the spring game for good reason.
yeah, yeah.
I also wanted to mention Elijah Lofton not playing the spring game,
No,
also for good reason as well. You want to keep that weapon on the shelf and don't break it once.
yeah, yeah. And
And
you want to look at some other guys who may be able to, to get in there. And I 100% agree with you. Key
yeah,
Mesidor's he's the cheat code on defense. Comes
yeah,
back with more playing time than anybody on the defensive side of the ball. I
yeah,
mean, the kid's had like 50 something, 60 games. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
he's and he's like you said, he's interchangeable inside, but I don't think that he or Bain need to really worry about because you have Armando Blunt, you have Justin Scott, who I love. You
yeah,
mentioned Hayden Lowe, who is going to be just stupid. I mean,
yeah,
big time kid. You have Ahmad Moten in the middle to kind of clog up things with his big body. David Blay, who you brought in obviously to be an experienced playmaker. He's had a lot of snaps. Malik Bryant, who came here as a linebacker, has gotten really, really big, and now
yeah,
he's a DN type of guy. Yeah, I mean, you have Booker Pickett, who I think's made some tremendous strides. Cole McConaughey, who I think is going to be really, really special, and Marquise Lightfoot as he gains weight. And then let's not forget the kid from the Deerfield Beach, by the way, of Cincinnati, and Elias Rudolph, who a
yeah,
lot of people were talking some great things. So, no, there those names that I mentioned in there. Those are a bunch of kids in there that are going to be playing on Sundays. I mean, they really are.
yeah,
You look at Scott as he matures. Look what he did as a freshman. I mean, coming in like that. We already know what Blunt, very intelligent kid. But the Messidor and Bain are the guys that they're going to play off of. They're kind of body type. I was looking at them the other day because where I was, on the side, they came off the field, I think, at halftime just to get some work in by with their position coach off the field, just run. And they look like twins, man. I mean, they're both built similar, and
yeah,
they're both very athletic and versatile. And that's where the linebacking core, in my estimation, is going to have time to grow because
yeah,
you have a front four, front three, front five, front six that are capable of creating havoc. And if you remember last year in the first three games, Florida, Ball State, and at Florida A&M, the defensive line was crazy good. But
yeah.
then all of a sudden Virginia Tech came and it wasn't the same the rest of the year.
It was.
I mean, a lot of those guys, Barrow, and they just didn't do what they did. I think there's more consistency here from the group that you have. I think there's more athleticism from this group. But is as you said, if the linebacking core could add another piece or two, that front seven could be pretty damn tough to do things against.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do want to shout out Dante Simpson as well.
Yeah. Dante,
The
freshman.
freshman for Chaminade. I think he will probably crack, maybe the 8 deep when it comes to that defensive line rotation.
Yeah,
I've been hearing great things about him. So he's probably that fifth guy on that deep
yeah,
tackle rotation that can certainly make some noise as well. They're absolutely loaded at defensive end, and they continue to develop and do great things. So I expect that defensive line to do great. I mean, they had that goal line stand
yeah,
in the spring game. So that really kind of shows how tough they can actually be. It's the first time they really did goal line all spring. So nice to see them get a goal line stand at the 1 yard line. So sky's the limit for them. Before I let you go, Blue, I know we ran a little long today, but we talked about the linebackers as far as needing a transfer in the transfer portal to really solidify that group. Are there any other position groups that you think Miami should go after in that transfer portal?
Yeah, well, we'll see how things go as far as if they need another tight end. Right now, I don't think so. But I think concentrating on maybe bringing a linebacker, maybe even like we talked about another running back, because if just one of the guys gets nicked up, a Lyles or anybody on there, you're one down already. So, and we remember 3 years ago where they had to use a walk on
Yeah.
to play. So yeah, I think they're going to sit down, evaluate what the spring was about. I think that's what this week or last night was about, and today is about, and say, hey, listen. And then I'm sure they've already had a strategy of what they're going after. They have they have that the transfer portal board out and see who's going to be available, who they can bring in. And but I think that whoever they do, it's going to come in pretty quickly because they want to get them on board, get them, in the off-season workouts and, get them in their strength and conditioning program. And then, how the guys get together and throw the ball around and go through, you get a leader on the team on each side of the ball, and they can go out there and do all they want. As long as there's not a coach out there with them, they can go out there and have do it. And I'm sure a lot of those kids, that's why having a Messidor, and having a Bain on the defensive side of the ball, and having a guy with as much experience as Zachariah Poyce, or having somebody like a Brantley who's been around and, have had 4 or 5 years at college, so they could pretty much take the bull by the horns and do that. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, hopefully they could use Carson Beck as that on-field leadership coach because he's got all that experience, and when he's ready to go, maybe do some 7-on-7s in the and I'm sure they will. I'm not, I know they will, but that's what's going to be. And the only thing is they got a really good recruiting class going on. The kids that haven't come in yet, as we talked about, Bryce Fitzgerald and players like that, when they make their way in on they're going to be they're dudes. They can pick up wherever they want. But yeah, that's it. That's I think spring. It was there. It wasn't. I mean, if you don't get if your quarterback that you plan on being number 2 leaves, then obviously that was a waste of 15, 16 practices.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to mention the wide receiver. That's a position that I think that they should actually go after in the transfer portal, just because during the spring game you had no JoJo Trader and you had no Joshua Moore as well.
No.
And Malachi Tony and Rayway were really kind of your receivers who were getting the most footballs. As Xavier Lucas was matched up with CJ Daniels for most of the day, kind of locking him up. I really didn't see a lot from CJ Daniels at the spring game.
Yeah.
So it's a concern for me a little bit, just because you're lacking in size. So if they could bring in here's what I've heard too, that they could be looking to bring back maybe Colby Young back to the team.
I heard things. Obviously early on he was a little bit in trouble, but he's kind of got cleared.
Yeah,
that's that whole Georgia thing. I'd like to be a lawyer for Georgia, man. I'd be wealthy.
Yeah, it seems like those Bulldogs are always in the doghouse for some reason or another. I don't know what's going on in that state, but
well, that would be great. Because he was like last year, I thought he was really, really vital in a lot of those games.
Exactly. Already has experience with quarterback Carson Beck as well. So
yes.
I think that could be a very good addition, as long as, of course, he doesn't, end up in the news for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
You're right. Yeah. So that's going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Thanks, Larry, for joining me once again. Hopefully I see you again soon. Maybe in the next couple months. We got spring football for high school coming up, so I'm pretty sure I'll see you out there at these spring games or spring practices. Look forward to seeing you there and back here on this podcast as well.
Thanks, Marcus.
All right, make sure you follow Larry at Prep Red Zone Florida. Of course, he also hosts the high school sports show as well on WQAM 560 as well. I've been a guest on that show as well. Make sure you, of course, listen to him on that platform as well. Once again, that's going to wrap it up for the Storm Tracker podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the website, canescounty.com, for free. Use the promo code Miami30, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel live from Canes County. Until the next episode.